And good morning, Bears. Welcome to the Big Drum Bear Show, where we are attempting to learn how to use some new software here. Let's see. All right. How's everybody doing this morning? Good to see y'all. So I got a little logo screen going on now, and now we've got this studio deal, the studio app. Yeah, I was in here somewhere, right? Hey, Melvin, good to see you. Hell yeah, good to see you. Good morning. Glad you could join us. Let's see here, just putzing around with the windows a little bit. Make sure I can see everything that I need to see. Now I've got some other stuff going on, so I'm gonna adjust my angle just a hair. Been cleaning up in here a little bit, trying to make it a little more conducive to what it is I am here to do. Cold coffee, I like it. Yeah, I did that a little while ago, a few weeks ago. I went to Alaska for a couple weeks with the Air Force National Guard, and I don't know, after getting back, my head was just feeling kind of itchy and grody with all of the, that's a wonderful shot, that's how I feel, right? Yeah, I was feeling kind of gross, so I wanted to take care of that just a bit. Man, the lights are pretty hot on me. Probably reduce that a little bit by changing their angle. So I'm trying a different thing. I got the lights at the opposite side now, and that's better. It's not quite as bad. I don't need to be a brilliant white. Dun, 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 such great voice. Come on now. Thank you. Yeah, I'll let it grow back. I actually did this all last year. It was constantly like this. But I said this year I was actually going to let my hair grow for a while, and I did. But I can constantly see that I'm losing it right here. I mean, it's pretty obvious in the video. You can see that it's thinning out pretty well, and I'm gonna lose it at some point. That's just gonna be how it works. Let's see here. Oh, the edge, yeah. It was in Alaska too. I didn't know that. I want to see this because they're talking about it like crazy. Definitely need to see that at some point. Man. Well, I'm glad you all are here today. I'm not going to do the longest show today. It's going to be a little shorter, so maybe you can be all happy about that. Like, good, we get Big Drum Bear to shut up after before an hour and a half, right? No, I've got to go teach a lesson. I finally was able to catch up with one of my students. He's been on a kind of busy schedule recently. He's been doing a lot of drumming with some stuff up in Chicago. So I can actually connect with him, go out to his house today, and teach him a lesson. So that's just going to be, oh, excuse me, this is going to be a good deal. Squirrel harder, nice. Well, actually today, what we're going to talk about a little bit, I'll have to show you here. I'll scoot over so you can see what I'm showing you. I tore half this drum set apart, right? So all you got, hi-hat, snare, ride cymbal, and of course the bass drum, right? So just these four parts, and then I have a music stand up here so I could put, you know, like a book of something that I'm working with, trying to develop my skills, so to speak. Definitely need to work on this book, my Art of Bop Drumming with John Riley, one of the greatest. He's a master. And there's so much in there, like, I'll never be done with this book. That's true of a lot of really well-written books. This is probably one of my favorites, but it's not so much an exercise book. The Inside Out by Billy Ward, exploring the mental aspects of drumming, and that's more of a reading book than it is a playing through book. And I have some exercises I've written down in there. He's written a few little exercises, but it's much more about thinking about how you're playing, right? Understanding how to think about what you're trying to play, and that's worthwhile. Definitely useful. And then recommended to me by a guy I met over Instagram, Janelle Walker. And that cat, he is something else. He's a military drummer. He's an Army guy. And he is phenomenal, right? I took a lesson with him when I was down in South Carolina for, what was I down there for? He was in North Carolina. I was in South Carolina. I think it was while I was away at chaplain school. And I had some time to get away and go see this guy and take a lesson, you know, just improve my abilities. And it was well worth it. Yeah, a couple things I got to do while I was down there. I also got to meet Terry, or not meet, but see Terry Bozio. Okay, Sergeant Peterson, good to see you. Glad you're hanging, even if you can only listen. Well, Sergeant Peterson, if you choose to participate in future, you are now modded, sir. You have a wrench, and I love to do that for people because I like people here having wrenches. It's a good thing. When I can. Hey, Tommy Lee, you don't have one. I wanted to fix that. You should by now. I thought I fixed that yesterday. Well, you're wrenched now, so welcome. Yes, this is my NPR voice. It's much more withdrawn and relaxed, very calming, big drum bear today. So I'm going to go below my head a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to come to the side. I'm actually going to scooch this to the side so you can see better. But Tommy Lee has the power. That's awesome. He is He-Man Bear now. You're not Tommy Lee Bear anymore. You're officially He-Man Bear. All right, so this is going to be weird, but I'm going to make it work. So with just a 4-piece kit, there's a number of things you can do, right? In fact, I'm going to leave that off. Where do I put the shells? I have, oh, wait. Did I leave them up here? I totally did. They're right here. Alright. Well, here we go. So these are like shells of some kind of a seed, and you put them on the drum. Little kind of a weird sound to it, right? So, yeah, you can do some interesting things when you have a different tone on your snare drum, and when you strip everything else away, you've just got these 4 basic elements. Now I'm thinking about all of that. I'm thinking about how can I just have different tone? How can I just make the drum kit sound more interesting? So I'm playing with my tambourine a little bit, trying to be more intricate with some of the groove that I'm creating. I can come over here and do what we call the cross stick, where you have the stick, the butt end of the stick, which is the technical term, we put against the drum head, and then about midway up, about 3 inches below the tip, that's where maybe 4, we contact the rim, and we get that clock, clock, clock sound, right? Yeah, I could do rap there, Andrew J. My name is not Dave. How do I say that? My name is not Gay Rubin, and I'm here to say I'll agree with you in every single way. For those of you that don't know, Andrew J. and Sergeant Peterson dubbed me Not Gay Dave Rubin the other day on Pinder's show. Apparently I sound a little bit like Dave, so I like that I just called him Dave. I don't know him from Adam. Let's see here. It's so weird because I'm at an angle from the drum kit, so I'm reaching over here to get this stuff, but I want you guys to be able to see it. My next step would be to have, nice professional moment there, a camera over at this side that looks back this way so you can see better, and I don't have to be all awkward. So when you just settle everything down, when you bring it back to you're just working with the constituent parts, it really amps up your ability to dig into being creative. I'm looking for something here. Just wanted to set this up. Yeah, there we go. I can set my books there on the music stand and look right at what I'm working on, different grooves or ideas. So I'll take things that are in books too. And when I settle everything down to just these 4 parts, right, to work with, then I can take the stuff that I read in these books and I can play with it. I can play what's written on the page, but as I develop an ability to play that, I'll take it a little bit further and I'll change something here or there. Like I've taught this to a number of my students. Here's a simple groove that I teach them all, and I take a little bit of this from Billy Ward. I credit him because he watching his videos and reading his materials, you know, it gave me the idea to sort of expound on this idea a little bit. But he's saying take something simple like groove that, you know, like you'll hear a young kid being able to play. It's real simple. I'll start here with my traditional just because I've got this angle in my snare today. I'll bring it down so you can watch. There we go. So here's a simple groove. Simple groove, right? 8 notes on the hi-hat, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's all I'm doing, right? Bass drum is 1, snare is 2, bass drum is 3, and then the snare is 4, right? And it holds it all together by playing 8 notes in between. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and on the hi-hat. Alright, excuse me, let me try that again. Simple, right? But let's use the same groove and just change one thing. So all I did really different there was I didn't play straight 8 notes. I played only the upbeats, right? Instead of dot, 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 I played 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and not 1 and 2 and but 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and all the ands, all the in-between beats. And the other part, 1 and 2 and 3 and stayed the same. I could do this way. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 So I do that little tick-a-tat at the end. That's a change, but I'm also just playing now the downbeats. 1, 2, 3, and 4 instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. This also here, the bass drum and snare drum relationship didn't change. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's see. You guys like creating raps over there? This is hilarious. I'm just catching occasionally what Honky's saying there. You guys are cracking me up. So here's another way to change that simple groove. It's just that's our basis, right? Now we're going to change the groove by picking a different sound. Or change the snare sound. Change it to a ride cymbal. Play just the upbeats with just the ride cymbal. Or play just the downbeats. Right? I did that little da-da-da thing at the end of it too. Just the quarter notes on that one. Change the snare drum tone, right? Let's see if I can do this. Now let's see if I can get that right. Yeah, that's gonna be tougher. I'd have to work on that a little bit, but that's all I'm doing here. Is it's still the 1 and 2 and on the hi-hat, and now I'm doing 1 and 2 and 5, 3 and, but I do the bass drum in there. 1 and 2 and 5, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 5, 3 and 4. So all I added was the of 2 and the E of 3. That's when we divide things up into what we call 16th notes, right? Now 16th notes, I talked a little bit about that yesterday, where you'd have your base unit of measuring a space of music as what we call a quarter note, right? You divide a measure of music into 4 quarter notes in most modern Western music, right? We call it 4/4 time. 4 beats to a measure, and the quarter note is given the beat. Now, those individual quarter notes can be subdivided in, cut them in half, and you've got 8th notes, right? So you'd have 8 eighth notes that fit in a measure, right? Then you can divide those 8th notes in half, and you have 16th notes. So you could have 16 16th notes in a measure, just to backtrack and make sure everybody's tracking with me. Not everybody was here for that yesterday. So, and many of you may know this already, but it's just good review. So when I say I'm doing this thing here where I go 1 and 2 and 5, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 5, 3 and 4 and. So I'm still doing on the bass drum the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's what's happening on the bass drum. The snare drum is still 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, except I've added 2 little 16th notes. They're offbeat 16th notes, right? They're off the offbeat even. They're not on the downbeat, and they're not on the and, which would be the 8th note in the middle of it. They're in between that. So if you thought of every quarter note in the measure being counted as 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, right? Then there's all those little spaces that I could either play on or not play on, right? And it's that combination of sound and silence that makes music and makes a good rhythm. So what I'm doing there is adding stuff just in a couple of the little 16th notes. So I was doing this groove originally 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now I made a little change. I go 1 and 2 and 5, 3. Keep that right there. 1 and 2 and 5, 3 and 4 and, right? I stopped a little bit because I didn't do the bass drum for a moment. I wanted you to hear the snare part, right? So I was going 1 and 2 and 5, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 5, 3 and 4 and. So I bring it back. I bring my left hand back and actually hit the surface of the snare drum for those E and the part, or excuse me, the and the E parts. The 3 E and 3 E and, right? 3 E and 4. So I get right back in place before I have to hit the 4. I have like a full 8 notes worth of time to get from here when I do 3 E and 4 and. That's all that hand has to do. So there's 3 different limbs doing stuff at the same time. This is doing the steady 8 notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and keeping everything glued together. The bass drum, right, is doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so that stays the same. All I've changed here now is just to change the snare drum and the rhythm that I put into it. So originally I was playing it like this: 1 and 2 and 4, and well, I should backtrack and say the original rhythm was 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then I added this little 8 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I didn't do the bass drum so you could hear the snare part. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that's with it all together, right? So now I changed the tone of the snare part by playing the downbeat parts, the 2 and the 4. What we also call them the backbeat downbeats. Beats 1, 2, 3, and 4, right, are all downbeats, right? But then the less, or I guess they're sort of more dominant in this case. How would I say that? Yeah, they're the less dominant. The most dominant is the 1 and the 3. Those are the dominant beats in rock music or modern Western pop music. In jazz, beats 2 and 4 are going to be your dominant beats. But here, in this case, they're what we call the back beats, right? The dominant ones are 1 and 3, right? 1 and 3 are your dominant beats in pop or rock or most modern Western stuff. Jazz is different. But since we're not doing that, we will call these the back beats, and they're still downbeats because they're one of the 4 quarter notes that are the main principal units of measuring our measure, right? Of counting through a measure of music. But we're going to play those in-betweens as well. So all my back beats, 2 and 4, are played on the rim of the snare as opposed to on the head, and then I'll play those in-betweens, those little 16ths, the of 2 and the E of 3 on the head, right? 1 and 2 and 4. Excuse me. Now play this over here, right? So you can take those different pieces and put them anywhere, and it's all of that is about making your groove sound better, right? You want the tone of what you're doing to fit the music more appropriately. In modern music now, it's a big thing to use programmed drums because it's quicker, it's more efficient, but there's more of a call to have more of those variety of sounds available at a moment's notice. So it's to a drummer's credit that they get creative enough to think about all the different sounds that one instrument in their setup can produce. There's a guy, I believe his name was Mike, and I don't recall his last name. Years and years ago when I was younger, my folks pulled me out of high school when in my sophomore year. I was very ADD. I didn't manage it well. I hadn't developed good techniques to cope with it and exist in modern school curriculum. Well, modern curriculum for 1999, if you can call that modern anymore, 20 years ago. So I struggled with that, and my folks pulled me out. They homeschooled me for the rest of that year, and because it was the fall of '99, and then they put me in. I have to think, or was it fall? It was fall of '98. I should take that back. It was fall of '98. They had me go and take the GED test, and I passed that. I did more than pass it, and I took the screening at the top of the year in 1999, and then they said, you go take the GED. You don't need to take any prep courses. That's what the screening was here to determine. Just start, if you're going to take classes at the local community college, go for it. And so they enrolled me in stuff at college level stuff. I was 16. And so I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. That's fine. But I was hanging around Illinois Central College. My dad had worked there for years, you know, so it was no thing for me to hang around the college. I enjoyed the heck out of it. But now I was an equal, and that was kind of cool. And I was hanging out with these musicians that were amazing, like blew my mind. This guy named Mike, he was an unbelievable drummer, and he was also a didgeridooist, right? Very talented at that. For those that are not familiar, didgeridoo is an Australian instrument. I actually have one here. I have a couple. Everything over just to bring these out. Let's see here. There we go. Here's my pair of didgeridoos, right? And they're both bamboo. This one is a little more stylized in painting. This one's more of a burnt kind of tone to it, or yeah, in terms of the color. But they both have different tones. So here's the first one that I got. It's a cheap little $40 one. In fact, I'll stand up and do it closer to the mic. Hang on, let me turn my snare drum off. Got those snare wires making it buzzy. So here's just the drone sound. So there's the pitch of that. Here's the other one, and you'll hear a distinct difference. Let's see, I'll put this on back so I don't lose it. It's like a half step lower. And a little harder to articulate because the mouthpiece is shaped differently. You know what I need is more beeswax, because what they use to lubricate the inside of the mouthpiece and make it easier for you to create that tone with your lips is beeswax. And this is kind of rubbed off a little bit. I need to update it. So it's a little didgeridooing. I'm by no means a professional in that. You thought you heard an ostrich. Yeah, you know what, Honky, that might be a thing to do in the future. Maybe I'll just create an hour of like my own didgeridoo wave, you know, over some lo-fi hip-hop beats. Akira the Big Drum Bear, you know. It'd be so cool to actually like collaborate with him someday if he's up for that. Like, man, that'd be killer. Just put some didgeridoo tracks into a wave. Would be ridiculous. But yeah, this guy Mike that I met around the campus of ICC, he would play didgeridoo and drum at the same time, and that was mind-blowing. He would take little cymbals, like a small splash cymbal, these tinier cymbals, and he'd take them and put them on a hi-hat clamp, right? And I'll show you what I'm talking about because I have that right here. So here is a, sorry about showing off my backside here. Oh, I didn't? Good. Better for everyone. Here it is. This is what I got. So this belongs to my good buddy Scott, and this is a prototype splash cymbal from the Saluda company. Great folks. If you're into drums at all and you're looking for a good set of cymbals, you need to check out Saluda Cymbals. They're based in Columbia, South Carolina. They handcraft everything. Their prices are at a fraction of what the big companies like Zildjian, Sabian, Paiste are. They're just amazing. You have an idea? Saluda will figure out a way to make it. Sorry, dropped my clutch thing-bob here. So I'm putting this cymbal on a hi-hat clutch. And that's the clutch is the part that allows you to put the top hi-hat cymbal on, you can see it here, underneath the tambourine that I have on there. And a nice little Rhythm Tech hat trick, they call it. And I've taken some of the jingles off so I have more of a surface to hit here when I need to. But this part here that holds the hi-hat cymbal on top of the cymbal, and then you tie it to the pull rod, right? And then your foot causes the pull rod to go up and down. I have one of those here. Now I'm not going to put this on top of the hi-hat, though I could, it'd be interesting. But what I'm going to do is I can use it on my snare drum, right? As a stick alternately, right? Get rid of these for a minute, right? So things like that blow my mind. And Mike introduced me to some stuff like that. So later on, of course, I discovered Billy Ward, and he talked about using things like hat tricks, like shaker cans, and I have mine somewhere. It's not right here handy. I got the idea of, you know, getting a thing like this is an afuche, I think, or a mini cabasa, really. And you have these beads, these strings of beads, the metal ball bearings that are linked to go all the way around it. And then this surface inside is rigid, and you rub those two together, you get that kind of a sound. But I thought, how much more fun could this be if I made it not just a cabasa, but a maraca as well? Because when you shake it, you're not going to get as much of that tone just by shaking it. So what I did was this. I'll show you. Take the handle off, right? Disassemble a little bit. Take the handle out. Take the bottom off. I have a whole bunch of metal BBs in there, steel BBs, copper coated, I believe, and you can get them fairly cheap. Like I got a container of about 1,500 at Walmart for less than $3, like $2.60. And yeah, I put like 100 of them or so inside of this thing. Now it's a mini cabasa maraca, so I have more sound options with it, right? So some different ideas you can do there. You can create things that give you more sound options when you're playing. I'm looking for what I just made recently. My tennis ball maraca. Doesn't come up as loud, softer, right? And then I also have an older drumstick. This is an old drumstick of mine, one of my favorite types, the SD2 Bolero from Vic Firth Drumsticks. Probably one of my favorites, but I filled it with those BBs, and I taped the tennis ball onto it, cut some holes in the top and bottom, and then filled that with like 30, or was it 30 or 100? I think it's 100 in here. So got that going on. Then I took golf balls, right? Plastic golf balls, and that look like this. Actually, I have an undefiled one here. So just these little plastic golf balls. You can buy a package of them for like $2 at Walmart. And took that, cut a slit in the top and bottom, and duct taped it to stay in place. But that was after I'd already put like 30 little BBs inside. And then I took yarn and knitted around it so it looks like your regular old marimba mallet, just a little thicker, right? This is a regular mallet you would use for marimba or xylophone or a malleted percussion instrument, keyboard percussion. This is my haphazardly done mallet, and it's just, you can see like a normal size mallet's like this, and this is gigantor in comparison. And the stick part is as well. It's like, it's a regular thick drumstick, so it's kind of silly. This is like a slightly smaller. This is about the normal size. That other one was a little bit bigger. This one has I think a thicker core to it, but the core of this is just a plastic golf ball. So just interesting, because now I have that as an option to be a mallet and a shaker at the same time. But I wouldn't have considered things like that had I not been influenced by guys like Mike, by like Billy Ward. I wish I knew Mike's last name. I could figure out where he went to one of these days. I'd love to see how he's doing. He probably went on to Berkeley or some crazy stuff like that, because he was amazingly talented. A little gnat flying around here, it's frustrating. At any rate, so I love paring down to the small kits like this because it forces me to be creative. Sometimes you need to get back to basics. You need to get down to the constituent elements, kind of like what I was talking about yesterday with the rudiments over here, right there. Yeah, the rudiments of drumming. And I even held up that poster of the ideas that Benny Greb had put forward about the letters of drumming, getting even like taking the rudiments and breaking them down to their constituent parts. Like I talked a little bit yesterday about the paradiddle, right? The paradiddle's unique because it's made up of two of those simple components. So, for example, the paradiddle is a rudiment that goes like this, right? Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. That's a paradiddle, right? Now, it's a pair, right, left, and then a diddle, right, right, a double stroke. It's another word for double stroke. A paradiddle adaloodle, is that what you're referencing there, Melvin? Because that's Fred Armisen humor right there, which I appreciate. A paradoodle. I thought he was referencing. So, okay, if you haven't heard of this, right, you need to check out a character that Fred Armisen came up with, which is hilarious. Jens Hanneman. He has this DVD called Complicated Drumming, and he actually got a bunch of like world famous drummers to be in this commercial for this DVD. It's so funny. Like they're all bashing the heck out of it too. It's great. But it's oh, if a parakeet and a poodle had a baby, that makes sense too. But if you haven't heard of it, look up Complicated Drumming. And it's a spoof on all these drumming video gurus that are out there that have made videos where they're talking about, I play this thing where I'm playing like in 1916 time, or you know, I play crazy different ostinato patterns with my feet, and then something on top, like some of my favorite drummers have done. Fred Armisen's a bit of a drummer, so he has some familiarity with that, and he was just spoofing on that whole thing. I mean, I'm not the biggest Fred Armisen fan, but I can appreciate that. He did a great job with that. So it was a step away from like political stuff for a little while, you know. I can have a breath. So paradiddle, right? Not the paradiddle adaloodle, right? It's let's see here. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. So you have a pair, a right and a left, two single strokes, right? One stroke from each hand, and then double stroke. Diddle, right, on the right hand. Then you repeat the process just in reverse. Single stroke, double stroke, right? And you can use that all kinds of different places around the drum set. It's a useful tool. One of the foundational rudiments that we have, but you can see that it's made up of smaller parts, right? It's got smaller constituent parts to it. So when you break stuff down to its individual parts, I can then say, okay, work on just my single strokes, get the single stroke part better from back and forth, one stroke each hand to hand, and it will get better. excuse me, then I can also spend some time focusing on the double strokes and work on just getting the double stroke roll better and better and better, because those are also rudiments, right? The single stroke roll is your first rudiment on that chart over there, right? The very first one is called the single stroke roll. The sixth one is the double stroke roll. So then you combine those two and you end up with, you know, 4 other rudiments: the single, double, triple paradiddles, and then the paradiddle diddle, right? Single, double, triple paradiddles, and then a paradiddle diddle is a completely different one. So single paradiddles, like I showed you. Double paradiddle, you have an extra right left or left right, whichever side you're doing, at the beginning of it. So it's, instead of just right left right right, it's right left right left right right. Triple would be, you know, the next step up: right left right left right left right right, and so forth. Paradiddle diddle goes different. It does a right left, and then it does a right right left left. It does both diddles within the space of that rudiment. So you can't turn it over. You can't switch it over and do it with the other hand as easily. Like right left, it's a 6-note. It's a 6-note rudiment, right? The paradiddle diddle, or double. The paradiddle diddle is, yeah. The double paradiddle is also a 6-note, right? So it's right left right left right right left right left right left left. You can do it from both sides. Right left right left right right. That's 6 notes. 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then 1 2 3 4 5 6 with the left side. Paradiddle diddle is right left right right left left, or 1 2 3 4 5 6. But to turn that around is a little more difficult. Right left right right left right right left left. That's tough. I can't get it as fast as I could get it if I kept it going on the same hand. Right? I can get that speed higher when I just stay to the right or just to the left. Right? So it doesn't lend itself to turning over as much. But yeah, if you break those things down, you see what they're made of, right? And then you can get better at those constituent parts. So here's the big lesson. How do we bring this over into our daily life, right? How can we look at the simple things we have to do every day and break them down to, like, what am I actually doing when I do this thing or that thing? What am I actually doing with it? How can I do it better? How can I do it more efficiently? How can I make sure that I do it consistently, right? That's probably one of the biggest questions that we face every day. How can we do the stuff we're trying to do consistently? How can I make sure that I get out the door at the time I need to? How can I make sure that I'm organizing my room better? You know, what do I do with it? How is my room set up? You know, back to the Peterson rules, you know, which really aren't his rules, of course, but you know, the way he breaks them down, I give him full credit for, because that helps the rest of us take those principles that we've known about for most of our lives and understand them better. He's breaking them down, and he's doing exactly what I'm talking about here today. He's in his works talking about how you can look at a simple thing like that and see what it's made of and how you could do it better. You know, what does it mean to clean your room? What does it mean to tell the truth? Those simple little things that are going to tend us toward living better, right? Yeah, and best answers, it is military drumming. You're absolutely right. I'm just noticing that comment there. The paradiddle is one of the oldest rudiments. The single stroke, the double stroke, and the paradiddle go back to Civil War days, if not earlier. And like I said, when I figure out how to make this program work that I've got set up today, we're going to take a look at the what do you call that thing? This military manual for fife and drum that has that stuff all written in it, from I think 1864 is when that was put around. All right, so I am realizing that I got to get going because I got to go teach this lesson, and I need time to shower up real quick before I head out, and then I have to drive there. So what I will do is play you guys back out with some great music that I played you in with, and I'm grateful to everybody that came out, enjoyed some drumming today, Choose the food for the jig. That's awesome, man. I never thought of it that way, but that's appropriate. I dig it. Yeah, that's the plan. Everybody, thanks so much for coming through today. I'm going to keep working with this and see how I can make the program more interesting. But in the meantime, engage your mind, engage your body, engage your body, and engage your heart, and seek to serve the ultimate purpose. I hope you live better and enjoy every day to its fullest. Peace to you, bears.